그러니까 여러분께서 편하게 한국어로 질문을 해주시면 되겠습니다. 어떤 분이든 관계없이, 순서에 관계없이 여러분들이 필요하신 질문들을 해주시면 좋겠습니다. 여러분들이 필요하신 질문들을 하기 앞서서 제가 가볍게 질의응답하는 사례를 좀 한번 데몬스트레이션을 해드리도록 하겠습니다. Bob, hey, you mentioned that to get the membership from Thai's FinTech Association, you have no fee, no membership fee, right?
Actually we have.
You have. You have mentioned that you have no membership fee, right?
No. Actually, we have membership fee. At the first step, first 6 months, we don't have a membership fee. But after that, we have the membership fee. But depend on for the startup that start and they didn't raise fund yet. Maybe we got a small amount of membership.
So only first year,
Yeah.
no membership fee.
Yeah. Right now we have.
That's your promotional policy, right? To invite fintech companies.
That's the first time, the first year. But right now we have.
Actually, Malaysia and Thailand, you guys are very compete, right? To be positioned as a hub of financial hub of ASEAN areas, right? So, in case of Malaysia's FinTech Association, do you have also no membership fee program?
No, we do have membership fee, but we give very cheap fee for small companies.
Please let us know exact number of amounts in US dollars, please.
Okay, for small companies with employee between 3 to 10, US dollar is only $100
Per year.
per year.
Right. So, if any Korean fintech startups
Please.
could be your member
Yes.
within $100 US dollars per
$100
year.
US dollar fee.
How about Thai?
Quite a surprise. Normally, for the fintech startup, it's about 100 to 200 US dollar. But for the big corporate, we have the sponsorship package. Start with about 3,000 US dollar, something like that. Level. Maximum is about 10 to 30,000 US dollar for big corporate.
That's why we should go to Malaysia, right? Rather than go to Thailand.
Because Thailand and Fintech Association, Thailand and Malaysia Fintech Association already collaboration together.
No, Malaysia
That's
has
price fixing, guys.
huge size market as an Islamic community, as a 1.8 billion people, right? Definitely Malaysia, it could be we. 자, 여러분 플로우에서 편하게 질문해 주시죠. 한국어로 질문해 주셔도 괜찮습니다. 편하게 해 주십시오. 네. 마이크 좀 부탁드리겠습니다.
네, 안녕하십니까. 오늘 그 세션 잘 들었고요. 제가 질문하고 싶은 거는 아까 나왔던 얘기지만 고잭이나 그랩 같은 플랫폼 플레이어들이 이제 페인테크나 페이먼트 시장에서 진출하고 있잖아요. 한국이나 일본 같은 경우에도 유사한 카카오나 라인이 계속 진출하고 있는데 그런 플랫폼 플레이어들이 핀텍이나 이런 금융 쪽으로 진출하는 거에 대비해서 금융사들은 오히려 플랫폼처럼 파워풀한 그런 고객들 끌어들일 수 있는 방법들을 잘 찾지 못하고 있거든요. 그리고 오히려 경쟁력이 뒤떨어진다고 생각을 하고 있고 신규 고객들을 계속해서 뺏기고 있는 상황입니다. 이런 상황에서 기존 플레이어들이 어떤 식으로 그런 플랫폼 플레이어들과 경쟁하는 게 좋을 것인지에 대해서 혹시 생각이 있으시면 답변 듣고 싶습니다.
I think that really you're the person to answer that question. Actually, nowadays, Gojek and Grab, they are disruptive innovators. They started from mobility service businesses, and now they are participating in financial services. So, in case of Malaysia and in case of ASEAN areas, there are many of traditional giant players, such like Maybank, CIM, Bank. So, how the traditional giant players against those big challenges from new startup and new platform builders, such like Gojek and Grab?
Very good question. What happened is,
Sorry.
what happened is the traditional players, traditional banks, what they are doing now is they are collaborating with not another bank, but companies with a lot of data, like telco companies, for example. What happened in Malaysia is there's a few companies that has huge amount of data, like We have oil and gas company called Petronas. They have a loyalty card that has been distributed to at least 1 million people. A mall operator called Aeon or Jasco from Japan. They have 25 malls in Malaysia and loyalty cards up to 6 million people. And these are the organizations that the traditional bank are cooperating with in terms of trying to compete with the technology company or mobility company that's now moving into finance. So the winner obviously are the consumers, because consumers now will get many more options given that now traditional banks and financial services need to compete at a different kind of competition, not just between banks, but now it's talking about mobile first strategy, convenience in terms of conversion of reward points and loyalty points into products and access to financial services. But it takes a longer time for traditional banks to convert themselves to become a fintech player, because when a company with, say, for example, 30,000 workers and a huge investment in infrastructure want to move into fintech, it will take a lot of time and a lot of effort. Compared to technology companies or mobility companies moving into financial services, the biggest hurdle for fintech companies are to convince the regulators that they are capable of doing this. So these are among the dynamics of what's happening now. And if you are looking at it from either regulator's perspective, investor perspective, or even as consumer, I think it is healthy and positive for the future, but there are certain new risks that now emerge and appear, and this is where consumers especially need to be aware of, because these risks are quite complex, and your understanding about financial literacy in the technological manner needs to be updated and improved as well.
I think, Shyam, you have some comments, right? You are working with currently existing giant players.
So I come at it from a different perspective. What does these technology companies, Grab, Gojek, all these have that these financial players who've been in the market for the last, say, 100 years, 150 years don't have? They have access to distribution. Every individual in a country may have a cell phone who has a Grab app. They don't have an app for that particular bank, Maybank or CIMB on their phone. So access to distribution is very, very interesting place where it gets the reach of financial inclusion. So why do companies like Grab and Gojek think about disruption? Because they have the distribution channel. Now, if you look at it from a financial institution perspective, what does this mean? Then it comes to, how do you as an institution partner with these distribution players to bring new financial products to the market? What is happening is banks were regarded as these institutions of trust. Now the element of trust is being moved into technology. So as an anchor, as an institution, your primary reason for charging the fees to be that institution of trust no longer exists. So then you have to think about what value you are providing the ecosystem. So I'm starting to see a pattern where these large organizations and banks are starting to white label their products and actually offer them through these distribution channels that goes into the consumer's hands with who are as the reach. And the reach could be telco players. The reach could be retailers. Actually, I'm seeing this from retailers who have access to loyalty points and they are providing services to the individual customers because they have touch points. So it's just a different strategy of how to stay relevant in the market. And the players who adapt are going to be relevant in the longer term. Players who don't adapt are going to have to find a different business model to be relevant.
저희 또 다른 분 질문. 네.
thanks for your actually speech. I was very impressive. I think actually I have some questions about in Malaysia, as you mentioned that like if we go for Islamic market, it's better go through Malaysia, right? Then you have like a Jakim for like cosmetic. So if you want to have something with cosmetic, it's better go with Jakim, right? It's international. So what about like payment system? Do you have like any special payment system platform for like Islamic countries like connected to Malaysia or something?
Thank you for asking me again. As far as payment is concerned, in the value chain of financial transaction, payment is among the last transaction that will happen. As far as Islamic economy is concerned, payment, you don't really care whether it's Islamic or not. You can still use PayPal even if, let's say, you are doing some Sharia compliant transaction. So as far as that is concerned in Malaysia, that is not classified as Islamic fintech. Okay, but what you mentioned just now about Jakim is actually a government body that certifies whether certain activities are considered as Sharia compliant or not. But largely, it focuses on food and beverages and certain activities like fashion. But as far as financial transaction is concerned, Jakim does not have the competency to do so, and hence that's why part of my job with the FinTech Association is to educate government agencies about how they can participate in terms of understanding how their role could be expanded. The problem that we see is a lot of them are old, they do not want to relearn, but that is besides the point. The point is they need to retrain themselves, and so far they are focusing only on F&B, fashion, as well as cosmetic industry. I'll stop there. I hope I answered your question.
I think Bashar, you have some comments, right? You are working in Dubai, where is the hub of Islam community. So, and also you are dealing with payment solution business. So
That is true. I actually do confirm that when it comes to payments, Islamic finance is mostly about credit, issuing of credit. So regardless of how the method of payment was done, it's actually the end product that falls under like Islamic finance or not.
또 다른 우리 질문, 코멘트 없어요? Okay, I have a quick question to Jackie and Cam. When I visited China to see Chinese government perspective to dealing with adoption of blockchain technologies, so do you have any references or any use cases in terms of Chinese government perspective to putting blockchain technologies into Chinese ordinary activities, such like government administrative issues, etc.?
I guess the Chinese government has been, in terms of the Chinese government, the most recent use cases, the Shanghai Stock Exchange, they're using a lot of minutes, blockchain. Also, HSBC actually has one of the biggest transactions in their kind of program. They're one of the few companies in Hong Kong, and also they have a lot of transactions within the Chinese government. So there's a lot of Chinese government has been pushing the idea of blockchain, less on the idea of cryptocurrency, but they didn't take a lot of blockchain into their infrastructures.
I think especially in China, there's a lot of research going into the different universities. They're funding a lot of programs to get more ideas out there. But I still see a lot of the push on the enterprise side, through JD, like Alibaba, are the ones that see the actual use cases now. I think regarding like more civic use cases, blockchain is still being explored whether it is the appropriate option there. But for clear market cases like supply chain, enterprise sees that and they can definitely act upon building POCs much faster.
And also, one of the biggest research universities, Tsinghua University, the Chinese government actually partnered with Tsinghua University to work with a research hub to help research all the blockchain applications as well.
Ken, I have also a question to you. many of Japanese manufacturers, they have ASEAN area specs manufacturing facilities, such like factories and operation infrastructures. Particularly in Indonesia, there are many of the Japanese manufacturers, their infrastructures. Nowadays, Sumitomo Bank, as a SMB, it is offering supply chain finance, particularly for Japanese manufacturers, even including the suppliers, which are Indonesian sub-manufacturers, such like OEM and ODM manufacturers. Do you have any ideas or references about Japanese manufacturers' supply chain finance within the blockchain technologies?
I think it's nothing. It's still, if you want to look at the bigger picture, this kind of problem doesn't pertain directly to Japanese supply chain. As we saw in the IBM presentation, it's a matter of reaching your different tier customers, right? In the supply chain, you have the tier 1 all the way to tier 3 and tier 4. Blockchain inherently has an issue about adoption in supply chain. You need to have everybody being able to put the proper data on there, which means that everybody has to be integrated into that system. With so many different parties in play, with so many people at different levels of technological infrastructure, as we talked about, a lot of people are still on paper, and that's why digitalization is still the first step that we need to take before blockchain implementation. A lot of clients I've seen in supply chain love blockchain. They think it's this technology moving forward. It enables better trade finance. It creates these inauditable records of transparency. But they're not at that stage yet. Toyota, other like large manufacturers in Japan, their main operations can handle implementation of blockchain structure. But their OEM suppliers and people further down the supply chain, either upstream or downstream from them, aren't necessarily ready yet. And until they're able to standardize all processes at a technological level, then we can look at blockchain use cases. But regarding trade finance, the transparency does show a great use case for blockchain, but I don't think we'll see like immediate implementation on full supply chain in the immediate future.
Sure. I'd like to add something. When I visited Xiaomi, a Chinese manufacturer, they have an internal finance program for their suppliers within the blockchain basis as well. And then it is okay, no problem, because the most suppliers are located in China, not overseas. Right? So to deal with global supply chain basis, putting supply chain finance as a trade finance program, how we can configure some of the slacks or lags to figure out the completion level of offering the supply chain finance and trade finance.
So let me first answer the previous question, then I'll come to this. I have a little bit of a different viewpoint that every supplier or dealer who are involved in the chain need not be on the network. What you need is the data to be on the network. So let me qualify that. And I talked to you about how we are working with farmers and growers in setting up a food supply chain system. The farmers and growers may have cell phones. They definitely don't have enterprise systems. They don't have digitized data. Think of that. So as long as they have a way to take a picture of a pig, or take a picture of a cattle, or take a picture of the lot that they are actually putting all the vegetables into, and say, okay, this lot is this, and put it into a mobile app that flows the data into the blockchain ledger system, it still is a form of digitization that you can trust, right? You have to design these networks with the right motivation, the right incentives in them. So there is penalty for faking or providing wrong data, and there is reward for actually doing the right thing in the system. The second thing is, you mentioned about starting with the ecosystem that's within a country and then evolving into a cross-border kind of ecosystem. Supply chain ecosystems are very unique, and you talked about how Xiaomi actually does their own finance, right? And this is not unique. I mean, who understands the risk better than the corporate that actually is doing the production and taking the risk for taking the product to the market? They understand the risk involved in producing the goods. So, especially, and this is not unusual. Actually, IBM has a global financing division that's about $50 billion big, and we finance our own suppliers, and they are all over the world. And in this situation, you understand, right? As long as Xiaomi understands who the tier 1 suppliers are, and then who the tier 2, tier 3, tier 4, then it's easy for Xiaomi to actually finance that. The challenge today is that interaction, that visibility does not exist. That's why you need a financial institution as a go-in-between who can take on the risk and therefore provide the rates. So this is an exercise that I've been doing with some of the central banks, regulators, and as well as some of the top banks, is that when a new broker, the financial institution is brought in as a broker or a trust anchor between the entity of a corporate and their OEM manufacturer, usually in the first tier 1, the corporate's risk is used to determine the rate of lending to the supplier. But when it starts going down to the supplier, tier 2 supplier, tier 3 supplier, the corporate risk is never taken into consideration anymore. If you're able to establish a system where you can establish a purchase order raised by Samsung or LG and translate that all the way down to the chip manufacturer and the mineral provider, then you can provide financing to the entire supply chain. So it's all about risk visibility in the system, and it's possible. Cross-border trade, and this doesn't matter. I mean, geographical location usually doesn't matter as long as you have visibility into how far the supply chain extends into. Hope that answers.
Well, I have a question, right? Actually, when I visited Thailand, I've seen many advertisements regarding banks, loan promotional advertisements. I could see around 11% as an interest rate. Is that correct?
Yeah.
So it means that Thailand, it has around 70 million population, and the consumer market is growing so rapidly. It means that the financial needs and demand size is growing up very rapidly too. So please share some of P2P lending services in Thailand, because the bank loan interest rate is pretty much high, rather than Malaysia, right?
Actually, P2P lending in Thailand is very popular. But if you would like to do the P2P lending in Thailand, you have to talk with the BOT, the Bank of Thailand. But you know that Thailand, we have the problem about the home prices before, and we require facility to do some kind of business. But by the way, BOT, I mean the head of BOT right now is quite open to do something new, but it's not fast as we think. So we talk about how to regulate the P2P lending, something like that, but it's on the top. And in the next 2 months, in I think the 12 to 15 of July in this year, BOT will hold a FinTech Thailand on that event, and it's the main problem on the main topic that we're going to talk about that. So right now, we do believe that not only in Thailand, but investors around the world come to Thailand and focus on P2P lending because you know the Thai behavior. The behavior of Thailand is a shopper and one of the most spending people in the world. So I think it's a huge potential, but you have to talk with the regulator for.
혹시 또 플로어에서 질문 있으시면 주시죠. 엑스플로에서 네.
그 JP 모건도 코인을 만든 걸로 알고 블록체인 코인을. 그래서 저는 IBM
말씀 잘 들었습니다. JP 모건 은행도 코인을 최근에 스테이블 코인을 만든 걸 알고 있거든요. 그래서 제가 생각할 IBM도 언젠가 만들지 않을까 싶은데 혹시 그런 계획이 있는지 궁금합니다. 예. 샴.
Okay, I'm still hearing. So what I heard was the JPMC coin, the stable coin that they have issued for an IBM's announcement regarding stable coins. So let me step back. The JPM's initiative is around a settlement across all different banks and primarily for interbank settlement. And that's a stable coin that's pegged against a US currency, which is interesting. I mean, there is actually escrow process and it's in the process. I think it's 119 banks, and they're still piloting the system. There's still a lot of things to be done in order for this to scale. IBM has been working very closely with Stellar. Stellar is another provider of a blockchain infrastructure and as well as a cryptocurrency. They are an open source model. IBM and Stellar together have worked to put out an offering, a product called IBM Worldwide. And this product actually allows clearing and settlement of payments between financial institutions, between banks. And it actually uses a digital asset, which could be a stable coin. By the way, right now we have about 7 different countries stable coin providers who have signed up, and it's going to be launched on this, it is already launched on this platform. We expect this to grow. Our first region where it's going to be applicable is in Asia Pacific. We have access to 72 different countries around the world. It's quickly growing. But remember, this is a primarily an institution to institution transfer. IBM itself is not going to be releasing a stable coin. We rely on institutions like Maybank in Malaysia, like RCBC in Philippines, like DBS in Singapore to actually be the holder of the stable coin. We will utilize that stable coin as a digital asset to do the payment transfer and the settlement. That's the way we have structured the offer. Hope that answers your question.
I think the Stellar coin is private, or Ripple coin is used for the banking. So IBM이 그래서 그 개인 간 그 결제할 수 있는 걸 만들어야 생각하는데 그거에 대해서 어떻게 생각하세요? 그래서
So IBM's platform is not a peer-to-peer. It's not a P2P lending platform, P2P payment platform. It's a bank-to-bank payment platform. So that's the big difference. So Ripple definitely has an offering around this. They are working with all banks in a similar form. The challenge is cryptocurrencies have a big fluctuation point in terms of the currency value. So having it pegged towards a stable coin that is to one of the currencies that's in the market allows you to then really not change your foreign exchange policies in doing the transfers. That's the reason why that when you use a stable coin, it changes the way that against a Ripple kind of a solution that's viable. It's still viable in the market.
Sorry. Point checkout.
Yes.
Right? So you are offering integrated reward program.
Yep.
Right? So do you have any mind or plan to do a tokenized process within your...
So in the case of point check, and by the way, I have a couple of comments about this conversation. Well, the first question that I have, are there any issues regarding throughput of processing of, settlement of transactions and having them logged on the hyperledger. That's the first one. Because like from what I remember, Bitcoin did have like that issue of having a bottleneck of the number of transactions that can be added on per block, and that was one of the concerns. The second question that I had, which has to do with trade finance, I mean, it's obvious that the original PO issuer, let's say Samsung goes to one of its suppliers, the tier 1 supplier, but tier 2, tier 3, they're still shielded from the fact that tier 1 is the one who's going to get the money. So unless everybody agrees and they offload the responsibility of the payment to this financier, let's say, or the bank, then the bank might never get their money if tier 1 decides not to pay that supplier. And obviously you're aware of the fact that people end up changing their mind as to after how long do I pay in 1 week or do I pay in 3 months. In certain cultures, not paying on time is actually the standard. That's the thing. And I'll jump back to point checkout.
So just remind me, the first question was...
the first one is about throughput of...
okay. So with regards to throughput, we recognize, I think, in Bitcoin network, it takes about 20 minutes to do a single transaction, and Ethereum framework, it's about 7 minutes per transaction to be ratified across the network. So first, the worldwide platform is a real-time clear and settle. So real-time implies right away. Second, it's built on the Stellar network, not the Hyperledger platform, Hyperledger protocols. So therefore, right now, we've been doing a lot of performance testing. We're seeing real time, or almost real time, which is within a couple of seconds, complete clearing and settlement. So that's to answer your first question. The second question around financing and banks, it's actually a two-step process. If I'm a financial institution and I have a system that's built and that gives me visibility into some of the data around tier 2, tier 3, tier 4, 5. I'm not going to offer them financing all on tier 1. What I would like to do is to have visibility into the transactions that's flowing through the system so I can build my own credit risk decisioning systems using the data that flows through, and then offer selective products. At this point, all these tier 2 to tier 5 players are going out to lenders and getting 18 to 30% rates. That's the lending rates that they get in the market. Even as a bank, I typically range between 8% to 13%. That's my range of lending for corporate to the tier 1s, or even tier 1 to tier 2. So even if I put out a product that's, say, 15%, or 17%, that's less than the lender that's giving them at 30%, and I can still attract this community. That is a new market that I don't have access to. So I said two-step process. First, build credit history based on the transaction visibility that you gain in the system. Based on that transaction history, you could put out selective product offerings to this market, so you can convert them into actually your customers.
So that answer.
Sorry about that. I think we have only 5 minutes to finish. So I'd like to offer you 1 minute conclusive message of each. I think Vidya, you should first.
Thank you for the opportunities, and thank you for being patient with us here today. I just want to conclude saying that these opportunities in fintech, these opportunities in terms of understanding various countries' advantages as well as unique value proposition is really useful, and I think it is very, very good for everybody here to share this knowledge, and I hope that especially Malaysia and Korea could be able to forge a certain level of partnership either at the industry level or at the individual entity level to be able to work together going forward. Thank you.
I think blockchain is all built on the idea of having trust between amongst all parties. And I think for us to really unlock the new values that blockchain will bring us to all these ecosystems, we all have to do a lot of collaboration. fintech always has been a field of very competitive nature. Countries want to be the best, everyone want to be the best. But for blockchain to truly unlock new values and to have more efficiency and everyone benefits and gain new value, we should all work in collaboration and more trust.
To kind of build on that point, I think the message I want to put is that blockchain is just a piece of the bigger picture that we're trying to solve. Everything regarding like the regulation that's involved, the specific technologies. Blockchain does provide like the trust aspect, the faster remittance and settlements, but we can't forget that it's only a piece of the picture, and we still need to develop the relevant technologies around it, like IoT and oracles, to make it the future happen that we want it to be.
For me, as scientific association, we welcome everyone to join our association, and more than that, in the term of Thailand, I think we have a lot of opportunity, not only in fintech. I would like to say something that Thai government very support to bring the innovation around the world to do the business in Thailand, even the B2B, B2C, or even the B2G business. So if you think about money, think about Thailand also. Thank you.
First of all, like if any of you have any ideas about entrepreneurship or you want to pursue your own future, you should go ahead, take a leap of faith and trust yourself more than anything. And the second thing, there are too many problems and issues in this world that need solving. Technology is one tool that you can use, but at the end of the day, just trust yourselves and believe that you can make a difference to yourselves and the people around you.
Yeah, I'm very privileged that I'm here with you, and I have the audience of you sparing me the time to listen to me. First, I think we are at a place where banking, for the first time, can adapt to the modern way how we want to live our lives. Banking hasn't changed in the last 1,000 years. Now there's an opportunity to actually change it to the way how we live our daily lives. Second, and this is for the Korean market, you cannot move ahead if you're afraid to fail. And I know how much shame is associated with failing in the Asian culture. I come from one of those cultures, so I understand. But if you're afraid to fail, then you're afraid to take risks. If you're afraid to take risks, you don't see the reward. So there needs to be a culture of okay to fail that needs to be developed and promoted that can help the community. And lastly, my colleagues talked about this. Collaboration is very important. It's not just you, how do you bring the whole ecosystem up together? And blockchain is just another technology, but it's not blockchain. It's how you address the business issues that's involved that really changes the way that we as a community live, an individual live, or a country live. Thank you.
자, 우리 이렇게 장시간 시간을 내서 좋은 내용들 또 토론에 참여해 주신 이 패널리스트 분께